Have you ever wondered how Springtrap's anatomy works? How did William Afton manage to merge with the suit? Get ready, because in this video I'll explain how this killer machine works from top to bottom. This is Springtrap's anatomy. To begin with, we need to know that Springtrap is a very powerful combination. We're talking about a man and a machine, and Springtrap is nothing but the best version of both. But let's break it down. First, let's talk about William Afton. William Afton is the main villain of Five Nights at Freddy's, a rather dangerous individual, and as we know, a psychopathic killer. His strengths are mainly found in his mind. He's a highly intelligent, methodical, and analytical person, qualities that become quite dangerous when possessed by someone like William Afton. If we talk about his physical appearance, William is quite thin, and I don't think he possesses brute strength. He even seems a bit undernourished. But to give you an idea, William's physique is somewhat like Joaquin Phoenix's body when he played the Joker. So, as I said, William is more like the brains behind Springtrap. Now, let's understand Spring Boney. This animatronic serves two functions. It can function as an animatronic or as a suit. In fact, certain specifications need to be followed for it to be used safely and to avoid any accidents. The other part we need to know about Spring Boney is the endoskeleton. We don't see it very visibly in Spring Boney, it's more pronounced in Springtrap, but what we do know is that the suit is filled with a bunch of heavy cables and metal beams, which we can find in the legs, chest, arms, and of course, the head. But we'll talk about more of this later when we see how William merged with the suit. So, what Spring Boney contributes to Springtrap is the physical part, like the body, and of course all the functions contained in the suit. Now, let's talk about Springtrap. The way Springtrap works is quite different to how Spring Boney works on its own, because as we know, Springtrap can transform into an animatronic with William Afton inside it. But to understand Springtrap, we first need to know how this fusion between both parts occurred. The Spring Boney suit was in a hidden room within the pizzeria, and a considerable amount of time had passed since the pizzeria closed, so we can say that the suit wasn't in excellent condition. We observed that the place has many puddles, which could have caused the suit to become quite damp inside, leading to certain malfunctions in the animatronic. But if we pay attention to details, we'll notice that before William got into the suit, he stepped on a puddle of water, which means another significant problem for the suit. Being an animatronic, it has an electrical system inside. Probably this was one of the reasons why the mechanism of Spring Boney changed. We don't know exactly how this fusion happened, but looking at the way Springtrap works, we can get a brief idea. Being a rather large and heavy animatronic, it's obvious that it has to have quite heavy feet to support its entire body, as these serve as a base. After the fusion with William Afton, the legs of Spring Boney were completely wrapped in human tissues. All this means that William's feet were completely destroyed at the moment of the malfunction. But this wasn't the same for William's legs. In this part, Spring Boney doesn't have as much entangled tissue as in its feet. It's most likely that in this part, William's legs weren't completely massacred, but rather pierced by the beams. This allows William Afton to use the suit as a kind of armor. Now, let's talk about the torso and chest of Springtrap. And here we see that a large part of William Afton's organs are completely entwined in the beams and cables. The arms work more or less like the legs, and the hands are entirely made of metal, which definitely give William a lot of strength. And now let's talk about its head. Perhaps many had the idea that Springtrap had William's head fused, but thanks to these images, we can now know that Springtrap could remove the head of the suit and leave his own head exposed, but we still have no idea why he doesn't do it. Another thing we can say is that William Afton's body is mummified inside the suit and still retains some of his teeth and his nose. Moreover, the eyes we see on Springtrap are really William Afton's, as the eyes of Spring Boney were more like a kind of mesh. So that's why we say Springtrap is a combination of both, as they complement each other. Although very little of William's body remains inside the suit, he's the mind behind the animatronic. This is why William perfectly controls the entire suit, and we can tell by his agility in moving with the suit. But even though William controls the suit very well, there are certain restrictions that William himself cannot control. For example, the programming that Spring Boney had. As an example, we have the night mode, which prevents the animatronic from moving in the morning. This is something William cannot control. In fact, it was because of this that when William's suit was completely burned, he took advantage of it to remove certain parts of the suit and gain a little more mobility. So with this, we can say that Springtrap needs both to function, because without the suit, William Afton would be practically nothing, and the animatronic without William couldn't do anything. It's like a robot designed to become a killing machine, because Springtrap alone couldn't think, but with William's intelligence, everything becomes very possible. And of course, with the release of the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, it was obvious that we had to talk about the anatomy of this other William Afton, and obviously Springtrap. To begin with, in this instance, William was portrayed by Matthew Lillard, who apparently has a bit more muscle than the William Afton from the video games. However, not as much as Shaggy's muscles in Scooby-Doo.
Check out my pecs, little man!
The physique of this William Afton looks a bit fuller, certainly giving more strength to both William and Springtrap. Here, the structure of the suit, or animatronics, is the same, and we can confirm this thanks to the behind-the-scenes footage from the movie. There are cables and metal pulleys with very heavy structures. The only difference is the connection between William and the suit. Apparently, this William Afton can enter and exit his Spring Boney suit whenever he wants. This is why we saw him hiring Mike without being inside the suit. And at the end of the movie, he was with the suit, as it should have happened years ago in the game's story. Moreover, the Spring Boney suit already looks damaged. Could the connection be revealed in the next Five Nights at Freddy's sequel? Another difference we have here is that William Afton did remove the animatronic head. As we mentioned before, it was possible. But this was possible because the spring lock system hadn't failed yet. The difference here is, William is still alive. This is why Springtrap becomes one of the most dangerous animatronics in all of Five Nights at Freddy's. Not only because he has the mind of a human, but because he has the twisted mind of a psychopathic killer. Sounds quite far-fetched, doesn't it? But what do you think about this? Do you have anything else to add? We'll read you in the comments.